The Airbnb bust is here and it's affected me. And I have been putting off making this video because I was scared to show you that I failed and I didn't want to let you down. So I thought it was time to come clean. Oh, sorry, I can't do it. The reason I haven't done an update on my Airbnb earnings, if you will, is because I shot all of my 2022 content like 2 months ago. And I actually have a lot of other videos in my content pipeline that was supposed to come out first. But I read a couple of Reddit posts about me because yes, I am vain and I do look myself up every so often because I just want to know if I've arrived. And I saw a couple comments that I didn't love, like, take a look at his own rentals and see how poorly his rentals are doing. And let's see, what's the other one? I mean, it's always plentiful on Reddit. Wow, Rebuild's calendars are pretty wide open, yet he says Airbnb is not slowing down and he's doing fine. There's just so much going on in that comment that I'm just like, okay. So anyways, I wanted to make this video, so I could post it to that Reddit comment and be like, here you go. Here's all the information you think I'm hiding. And also because I'm relatively transparent on this channel. And I like to talk about all the ups and downs as it pertains to running a short-term rental business. And I do tend to talk about how much money I make on Airbnb. So I thought it'd be good to give you an overarching view of my revenue across my entire Airbnb portfolio, or at least the properties that matter the most and make appearances on the channel. But before we do, a quick thank you to today's sponsor, Guesty for Hosts. But a little bit more on them later. I actually want to get started with some of the bigger problem childs in my portfolio. Well, they're not really problem childs because they still make money, but you know what I mean. All right, so let's get into the first property here. This is my adorable farmhouse that I closed on in May of 2021. All right, so let me just show you how the calendar looks right now. So I actually have a decent amount, but as you can see, calendar is wide open. And this tends to be the initial reaction when you see this kind of stuff, right? So the way I'm gonna actually show you the income is through Guesty for Hosts. That's my property management system. Actually, one of my favorite features about the platform is the fact that I can just make an income report that shows me how much money my property has made over the course of a year. And it's actually just very convenient for this specific video too. So we'll create an income report. All right, so we're gonna select the correct property. There's actually a bunch of different ways you can create it, but for me, since I'm a self-operator, that's what I'm gonna choose here. We'll call this property number 1, end of year report. I doubt I'll keep that consistent, but we'll see. So as you can see here, total gross revenue is gonna be about $40,188.55. Now I can't show you 2022 versus 2021 because I didn't have this Airbnb operating the entire year of 2021, but I can compare December, November, and October. So I'll show you that. So December of 2022, this property netted $3610. So $3610, and then in 2021, we grossed $5181. So it was definitely higher, but we had some issues at that property this month, so I'm not really sweating it. And then I'll show you November, $3909 in 2022, and then for 2021, $3951. So actually not a big change. I mean, slightly, but you know, nominal. Okay, and then October of 2022, $3239. And then October of 2021, $6095. So 2021 definitely higher in those last 3 months that I just compared. However, I do want to say that 2020 and 2021 were sort of anomalies in the short-term rental game because we didn't experience seasonality. People were just booking no matter if it was peak season or not. And you're going to see those trends play out in this video. So what I'm getting at here is these months that I just showed you aren't peak season for that specific property. Peak season is spring and summer. So we'll feel a little lopsided in that fence, but I do want to turn your attention to the fact that this property grossed $40,188 this year, which personally I think is pretty good on a $295,000 house. Wow, that's just property 1. Oh my gosh, we got so much to go. All right, let's move on to my second property here, which is going to be the sister of this property, about 30 minutes away. It's my cabin. It's a little bit older, but it does have some charm. So let's get into that report. I'm gonna create an income report. We'll select the second property, continue. I'm a self-operator, and we're gonna call it property number 2, end of year report. Confirm, and I will show you right off the bat that this property for the year of 2022 grossed $55,805. Actually, pretty good. I also closed on this property of May of 2021, so I don't have a full year to compare. But again, I want to show you the last 3 months in comparison to the last 3 months of the year before. So in December of 2022, $5251. In this specific town, I mean, cabins kind of rule. The other place I just showed you is not a cabin. It's a farmhouse, so naturally it's just not going to perform the way cabins do because people just, they love cabins. I don't know why. Okay, so last December was actually a lot better. $8237, definitely higher, but Christmas last year was like the golden time for all hosts because we could charge so much because people were willing to pay for it. Not the case for 2022, but I still did okay. All right, so now let's show November of 2022, which is $4492, and then I will show you $6199. Not all that bad. So last year's $6199. So $6199 versus $4492. So about $1,500 more last year. Yeah, $1,500 or so. You know, my math's not not good here, but 1,500, 1,600. And then October of 2022, 37.58. Okay, so 37.58 versus, trying to figure out why this is. So I actually made more money this year. Did we shut it down? We must have done something. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't remember. We must have shut down for a month, but why? Oh, so we actually made more money this year because I think we had to shut down the property for, it doesn't matter. Can't use that data point. So we shut down last October for a reason that I definitely don't remember. That's okay. The important number here to know is that in 2022, we grossed $55,805. The actual accommodation fee was about $48,000. I'm rounding up a little bit, but our mortgage on this property is $1,692. So we'll call it another $500 of expenses. So that'd be $1,700 plus $2,300 times 12 is going to be $27,600 plus we'll call it the $98.40 on the cleaning fees. So it's $37,440. I'm just gonna say $37,500 because it's easier to remember. So we're gonna take the net payout here of $55,805 minus $37,500. So my profit on this property was about $18,305. So $55,000 to get this property up and running. So we'll do the $18,305 figure divided by, we'll say, I'll even go on the high side, $55,000 to get it up and running. It's a 33% return. So this property this year, even with the dip in bookings, still brought me a pretty good return. So also, since I'm here, I wanted to show you my calendar so you can see that they're not like complete crickets. So I'm gonna show you starting in September of 2022, that first property that I showed you, in this specific town, we've always been more of a weekend town, but that's okay. So here's my September calendar, here's my October calendar, here's my November calendar, here's my December calendar where we cleaned up a little bit. And as you can see, all these grayed out dates over here, these are my Vrbo bookings. And then we actually have every single weekend booked in January. That's when it starts to pick up in this market. Now let's switch over to property number 2 and I'll show you the same thing. So same thing here, this is a better performing property, all weekends, all the time for October. This is just a thing with West Virginia. November, we actually picked up a little bit. And then December, same thing. And then here's my Vrbo booking. We've actually already booked a lot of January. So anyways, those are my first 2 problem child properties. Like I said, not really. That's a harsh way to put it because as you can see, we did pull a profit there. But I will say that these 2 properties weren't properties that we were like, these are gonna be winners. We want this because it's gonna make us a lot of money. We actually sold Casa Mariposa. I talked about this in a previous video and we had about $400,000 that we had to get rid of in 45 days because it was a 1031 exchange. And we actually used those funds to quickly get into these properties. So this was a little bit more of a, let's just buy something and figure it out. And that's exactly what we did, but not exactly properties that we told ourselves, oh, these are gonna be the home runs of the portfolios. Consider these properties to be more of base hits. Next property is gonna be LA. Yeah, we can do LA. Let's do LA. Just a refresher course on this property. There are effectively 2 medium-term rentals that I run exclusively. Because of LA regulations, I no longer short-term rent them. I keep these strictly on Airbnbs. So I'll just show you in the Airbnb interface here. This is my tiny house. As you can see, I was booked all of September. Then I had a 2-week stay here. Then I kind of went open for about 2.5 weeks. Then I booked November, and in December, I'm actually a little empty here. A couple reasons for this. I'm a little bit choosier with the guests that I accept into this property. We had several inquiries in December that we actually turned down because they were just a little sketchy. I could have accepted those to fill up the space, but I didn't want to. And I had the luxury of turning those down because my main home actually booked for a 6-month reservation at about $5,600. But my main home calendar, as you can see here, I was booked in September. In October, I was booked. And again, I had about a 2.5 week opening here. And then as you can see, I am booked here for the next 6 months on a $33,000 reservation. All right, so that's kind of like the quick overview of that property, but I did want to show you the revenue differences between 2022 and 2021 for the tiny house. So I'll do that now. Last year, I made $27,226 on my tiny house. This year, I made $24,038. Now, this is actually one of those things that bugged me because if I had taken one of those reservations that I declined, I probably would have just grossed exactly the same amount, but I didn't, so I made a little less. Whatever, the expenses on my tiny houses are like literally $200 a month, so not a big deal, still very profitable on this property. Now I want to show you how much I made on my main home. So this year in 2022, on this house you see right here, I made $46,305 because this has been an amazing midterm rental for me. I'll show you what I made in 2021. I made $33,629, so I think that's about a $13,000 difference. So I actually made $13,000 more, this year on my main home. So not really feeling the hurt on this property because overall, that entire property made me a lot more money this year than it did last year. Boom. All right, a little good news there. Probably should have started there so you guys weren't like, oh my God, it's all ending, but whatever. I didn't order these in a way that made me look good. I just thought of all the properties that I had and I listed them out and I'm just going down the list. All right, let's get into my mid-century modern chop top A-frame. I've actually talked about this on the channel before, and actually of all my properties, it's the best rated, which is kind of crazy because it doesn't have internet, and I always think that that's gonna stop people from booking the place, but as you're about to see, that's not the case. So first I wanna jump into that calendar just to show you how many bookings we've had over the past couple of of months. So October actually pretty good. November was actually surprisingly slow, but December we turned it around. And then actually we have some pretty good reservations coming up in January. So now let me jump into that specific guesty account. And then I will create an income report. And then we're gonna go to that property, self-operator, property. I guess I'll say property number 5 because that's technically what property we're on. End of year report. All right, so first I'd like to turn your attention to the fact that this property grossed $9,645 in 2022, which is just like, it's honestly really good because our mortgage on this property is like $2,200 or something. So top level profit is actually pretty good on this property. But to show you the before and afters here, I did want to be real about that for a second. So let's see. So this December we grossed $57.47. Last December was more for sure. But remember the seasonality thing I was telling you about? Seasonality didn't really matter for these types of properties. So I think we made about $10,000 last December, which is a lot more. But I personally think we were at the peak of the travel boom. So the $5,700 number is actually a lot closer for this property and is what I'm going to expect for the next couple of years. Okay, now let's go into November. Weirdly, this November was super slow for us, but it does calculate for me. I was expecting to make a little bit more, but Wisconsin is very cold. So I'm not really surprised that people didn't want to be in 0-degree weather, but nonetheless, that's low. And then in our October, we grossed $7,600. That is the end of our peak season in Wisconsin. Because then I'll show you even in September, September was $9,000. And then August was $11,322. And then let's see what July was, $12,500. And let's see what June was. I'll just keep playing this game. I'm actually really stunned here. $8,100. So for this property, it does tend to pick up around the spring because that's whenever Wisconsin is not unbearably cold and it's really beautiful out there. May, we did $7,100. April, $4,600. So things pick up for us in May, basically. So April is slow. March is great, I guess because of spring break. And then I gotta imagine that February is not super popping either. So let's see. Yeah, $5,600. Then January, $6,000. All right, so it all tracks. So I don't see any huge changes here. This property now seems to be calibrating to what it should be, but I do expect that we'll always make around $90,000, which I pretty much predicted about 6 months ago when I made my initial video about this specific property when I said,
now if we extrapolate that data and multiply it times 12, then we're looking at a gross of $92,983.
Cash on cash for this property, crazy good. Don't even know, I think it's like a 50%. Because we're gonna profit 42 grand on this property. We got into it for about 80, yeah. So probably like 54%, something like that. Now a quick word from today's sponsor, Guesty for Hosts. So if you've been following along, then you've seen that I've been tracking all of my income in the income report section of Guesty for Hosts, which is my property management system. So why I really like this specifically is that if you have a listing that's listed on both Airbnb and Vrbo, for example, if you want to find out how much money you're making, you got to go and pull separate income reports, add them together, do all that math. But if you sync it all up within your property management system like I did here, it compiles all that information for you. And that's really just one of several awesome features that make my hosting journey so much easier. I also automate my communication through Guesty for Hosts, so now I'm not the one physically sending out check-in instructions, checkout instructions like I used to, and things would always fall through the crack. Single crack, just one. There was only one crack and somehow things always fell through. I also automate a lot of my housekeeping management within Guesty for Hosts, so I'm not texting with my cleaners, I'm not manually scheduling them, which would honestly be a nightmare for the amount of listings that I have, but I can automate it to send my cleaners text messages or emails whenever new reservations are made. You can customize it however you want. You can even automate leaving reviews. With me and the amount of guests that I host every single month, I often forget to review them, and guess what? You can automate that too, and you can even build a direct booking website through Guesty for Hosts. So really a one-stop shop to efficiently manage your portfolio. So if that all sounds good and you're ready to automate your short-term rental business, be sure to click the link in the description down below and use promo code RAWBUILT for a little something, all right? All right, now back to the video. Okay, so this is definitely getting long, so I'm gonna try to speed through some of these, but my tiny little A-frame, it's a little glamping off-grid A-frame, very bare bones operation where you're gonna rough it a little bit, but this property in 2022 made $52,969. $52,969. Can't beat it. All right, let's see how much I made in 2021. Okay, made a little bit more in 2021, $64,073. So this year I made about $12,000 less on my A-frame, but I would like to show you something. Okay, so we launched basically at the very beginning of 2020 with this property, and in the 3 years since launching this property, we've grossed $158,257 on a property, a little off-grid A-frame that cost us $35,000 to build. So yeah, that's fine. So we paid back our investment on this like 5 times. So yeah, okay, if I make 52,000 versus 64,000, that's fine. If I make 17,000, I don't care. This was an experiment for us and it was a home run. So let's keep moving. Actually, I forgot to show you the calendar for this property, so I'm gonna do that really fast. But here's my December, a little slow, but I do want you to keep in mind that in this part of Arizona, in this part of the year, the temperatures are like 5 degrees. We can't get away with charging $199 a night anymore, but that's fine because we still had a decent November, which is surprising because it's still really, really cold. October was pretty good. So September is basically the shoulder season. Our time to shine on this property is basically from like March to September. Everything else is kind of a cherry on top if we can make any money at all. All right, now for real, next property. All right, next, my Austin property. Want to show you my calendar really fast. So this one we switch between midterm rentals and short-term rentals, depending on what's more convenient for us, because we have ACL, we have Formula One, we have South by Southwest. So sometimes we want to capture some of those juicier reservations. So let's look at our calendar here. I'll start at September. September, we were basically booked with a midterm rental. Then we had a couple of reservations here in October. November, we filled it up with a midterm rental. Our midterm rental ended kind of at a weird part of December, and we've been open for December ever since. Would have liked to have filled it up, but that's fine. As you can see here, we have a booking here. I'm sure we'll start booking this in January here pretty soon, but February has already started to book out and March has already started to book out. So this property actually does pretty good for us. In 2022, we made $36,227. In 2021, we made $40,653. So about $4,000 more in 2021 versus 2022. So as you can see here, a lot of my properties dipped a little bit, but nothing super significant so far. But basically the Airbnb bust language and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's true, we're making a little less money, but the sky isn't falling. And I hope you see this and you're more encouraged rather than thinking like, oh my God, he's losing so much money, because I'm not. Like in this instance, I am making $400 less a month than I was a year ago. But again, 2022, we're going into a recession, right? I don't really know. Are we? Are we not? I look it up. Who knows? I don't know if we're all agreed upon if we're going on the recession yet, but let's just say that we're going into it. It'd be expected to make a little less money, but overall, the profit on this property is pretty good because it's a midterm rental, so we don't pay for that much cleaning over the course of the year. And our mortgage and our HOAs on this is about $1,700. It's a condo, so it's a very small property. Our bills are going to come out to like $300 a month. We're all in about $2,000, $2,100 a month. So because our strategy on this is midterm rentals, we're not going to make as much money as we would if we just ran it as a short-term rental. So I'm actually okay with making the amount of money that we do on this property. For me, midterm rentals are stress-free and I never have to deal with this property, so I'm good with it. All right, so quick little update on this one. Since shooting this video, Caleb's like, dude, why are you doing this to me? The video was done. And I'm like, bro, because it's good news. I actually booked another month-long booking here in Austin. So this booking comes in at $3,031.25. Now it's not going to affect my 2022 gross. I still did gross about $4,000 less than 2021, but it just goes to show you that I'm still booking and this property is actually doing really well, right? So we got this month-long booking here. February is already halfway full. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we have 9 days left in February, a $1,700 booking in March. So this property in particular is off to a super strong start for 2023. Next, my chalet. This one we did take a dip. I already know that for sure because I just looked at it like a week ago. There's a few things I could speculate. I don't want to make excuses. I'm just going to say we didn't make as much money on this one, but here's what I will say. I think we had a 98% cash on cash in our first year. So our investment is already paid back on this one. So the fact that we're going to make probably about $20,000, $25,000 on it, gravy. Self-operator, continue, property, I don't know, property, 279, I don't even know. All right, this just end of year report. Let's look at how much I made in 2022, $57,233, and then 2021, $84,000. This was a big hit. There's a couple reasons for this. We actually did shut down for like 6 weeks to remodel a few things. Shouldn't have seen this big of a dip. I'm honestly a little bit surprised because this property has always been a really good performer for me. But let me show you the calendar here. It wasn't really bad. September, we did pretty good. October, we did relatively well. November did pretty well too. And then in December, also did really, really well. So I don't really think it was an occupancy problem because for the most part, it seems like we were doing okay. I think probably we priced a little too aggressively. I was just trying to get it booked. So we would have these bookings come in. The bookings were a lot more affordable than last year. So we just didn't make as much money. Because look, I mean, I'll show you. 2021, our occupancy was 71%. Oh yeah, so it has to be. It has to be because we shut down for the remodel. Let me see. I'll know for sure. Oh, okay, I feel a little better. So we remodeled this place in April and May, which are typically like good performers for us. So I'm gonna say that took away about $10,000 worth of revenue from us at a minimum, which would put us at the 67,000 mark. We still made a decent amount less, but not as bad as I thought. The expenses on this property are like $2,000 to $2,200 a month. So overall, I think our profit on this will be about $35,000, about $3,000 a month, which I think is pretty good. I think the sentiment, the initial sentiment is like, oh my God, you made $20,000 or $25,000 less. You're an idiot. See, it's over the Airbnb. And I'm like, well, yeah, but let's not glaze over the fact that I still made $57,000 and a $3,000 a month profit on something where the initial investment is already paid back, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So it's like the negative can easily overshadow the positive, but this gross revenue right here is still a home run in my portfolio. Not a grand slam, but that's okay. What else we got on the docket? Oh my gosh, I'm so tired. All right, next, my Gallenberg cottage here on 52 acres, beautiful view. It's not a cabin. It probably would make more money if it was a cabin. cabin, but it's got cabiny feels on it. Look, it's beautiful. This is one of my best designed Airbnbs, which actually, I think if I remember correctly, did pretty well. And what was really interesting about this property is that I bought this property because I was gonna do the tiny house village. I still am gonna do the tiny house village. Going back to that Reddit comment from before. So I never really intended to make a lot of money from the actual property, if any at all. I just kind of consider that an expense so that I could build out my tiny house village, but I was actually a little surprised by this. So let's take a look. Self-operator. So in 2022, we'll call this Gatlinburg 2. So in 2022, I made, what did I make? What did I make? $57,135. I had to give out like a refund or two, so I was so close to making like $62,000 or something like that. That's all right, not a big deal. So total, my accommodation fee on this was $50,975. So that's actually what I brought in from like an average daily rate standpoint. And I've only been running this property as an Airbnb for the last 12 months. So this is a true year-end report here, but let's look at what I made in December. Okay, so in December, $10,369, which I actually looked this up last night randomly for a different reason. And I was really surprised. I didn't know it was that much. November was $5,900, and then October was $5,900. All right, so let me show you my calendar here. This is my September. October was like so-so. November, decent. And here's my December. So overall, I think this property is probably about like a 50% occupancy rate. Yep, here you go. Just as I guess, 48.4%. Now, a couple of things about this property. I wanna go back to my overall gross revenue on this. Okay, so overall, this property cost me about $75,000. We'll say maybe even $80,000 to get up and running. My profit on this $50,975 is probably gonna be about $20,000 to $25,000. I'll say $20,000 just to keep it simple. So $20,000 divided by $80,000 is a 25% cash on cash return. Super happy with that. One of the things that this property does not have that has really caused me to lose money, it doesn't have a hot tub. If this property had a hot tub, easily I think this property would make $80,000, $90,000, maybe even $100,000. And the reason I haven't done a hot tub is because I'm looking for a very specific contractor that will build me this cantilever deck that's hanging off of my cliff with a hot tub on it overlooking the mountains. And that takes like civil engineers, geotechnical engineers, soil report guys. It's like a whole thing. And I could have just installed like a little cheapy, like $5,000 hot tub, but I want to do it right. So I'm still holding out for that. I'm working with a contractor, hopefully to get that done. But as soon as that's done, I think I can crack 6 figures with this property. But even if I don't, this is an overall winner for me. And then once I do build my tiny house village, I'm planning on launching 4 glamping tree house dome things. More to come on that, but that will bring an additional $250,000 of revenue to this property, bringing me to hopefully around 300K, but I have more upcoming videos about that. All right, we're getting to the end here. Now we're to the best Airbnb ever, the OG, the tiny house that made all of this possible, the reason that you're probably watching this. I don't know how much money this one made. I usually save this for its own video because I know that it'll go viral, but let's just lump it in with all of these. So, self-operator, Casita, end of year. So before we hop into that, I want to show you the calendar here because this is one that people always look at and make really big assumptions about how well I'm doing on my portfolio. So I want to show you how my December panned out. That's my December right there. I did okay. Look at my January. It's empty. Look at my February. It's empty. I would say the majority of my bookings for Casa Conejo, like 95% of them, come in the day of or like within a week's time. All right. And I can prove this to you because I can show you. In a previous video, I talked about this. If you're looking at my calendar, especially in Joshua Tree, it looks like I'm struggling to book, but it's because I'm genuinely unbooked until the last second. So let me just show you September on, all right? I think hopefully this will shut up all the haters because this is the most annoying one. But in September, all my weekends were booked. October, relatively booked here. November, relatively booked. In December, relatively booked. So when you look at my calendars, to all the Redditors that might be watching this right now, stop making assumptions about things you don't know. I have done okay. Now I want to show you how much this property has made. So let's go to 2022. 2022, I made $55,586, accommodation fee, $44,000. In 2021, I made $66,000 and $78,000 total. So I did make about $20,000 less, but I'm really not that mad about it. I mean, let's look at my December. December, $4,700. November, $3,800. October, $4,600. This to me is very in line with what this property should make. And then I want you to even see, let's see in 2022, my occupancy was 66.9%. And then let's look at 2021, occupancy was 88%. Now, one thing that I do want to say is that I took this property down for a solid month to build this awesome hot tub pergola enclosure. So I did lose about $4,000 in revenue. I recognize that things were slower. We're going back to typical seasonality. And I actually decided to invest invest a lot of money into my properties to make them more competitive, to hopefully make more money than the competition in 2023. So I don't tend to panic about a loss of revenue, especially for a property like this that I purposely shut down to build an awesome hot tub experience. But yeah, I also want to talk about a few things with this specific property. It's a tiny house. My mortgage on this is like $900, something like that. My expenses on this are maybe another $300 every month. My expenses are very low on this property. And I also want to say that I cashed out and got all of my money back from this investment. This is an infinite cash on cash return. This was a free house for me that now pays me $55,586 a year. So this is one of those moments where I'm like, it could be $55,000, it could be $25,000. Obviously I want to make the higher one, but I don't really care. I got all my money back. Any money that I get from this is gravy. And honestly, if you want to know the real truth, I did this for my parents. They get the money now. So I do want it to be successful so that they get more money. But all to say, this property makes less, but it's still a grand slam. All right, so quick update on Conejo. I wasn't going to include this in the video because it's just very convoluted, but I said that I made $47.76 in December. That was actually incorrect. I actually made closer to $5,900, which I was confused when I was doing the video because I had just checked that number a day or two earlier. But long story short, I had a very high maintenance guest stay at my property. They asked for us to clean with all organic products, which we said, okay, sure. Guest went and stayed at the property, decided to cancel his reservation, which was a $1,200 reservation, because the Wi-Fi levels were too high at my property. Very tinfoil hat. I'm not even gonna get into that whole, maybe I'll make a video on it sometime. But effectively, he told Airbnb that we agreed to a 100% refund, which we didn't. They gave it to him. We sent a message to support and we're like, hey guys, that's not true. And they basically said, oh, we're sorry about that. And they refunded me back the money, as you can see in this screenshot right here. So small difference, but it is worth saying that in December, I made $5,900 at Conejo, which was like, I made roughly $3,600, $3,800 in net profit on Conejo, which is amazing. So that's all on this property. Again, I wasn't gonna include it because it's convoluted, but there you go. In December, this property did well for me.
All right, last update. I promise, Caleb, I'm so sorry, but I wanted to notate what my Conejo calendar now looks like when you look at it, right? It was empty at the beginning of this video. Several days have passed since I shot the video. Here's what my calendar now looks like. So as you can see, that should corroborate my theory, or whatever you want to call it, that all of my bookings come in last second. There you have it. I literally just showed you.
And let's see, is there anything else I can show you here? I can show you my Scottsdale property, let's see. This one has been a relatively slow one. January is finally picking up, but I will show you October decently booked. November, a few bookings, not as much as I wanted, I will say. But then December panned out, and then January, we got a couple of fatties in here, $7,200, $4,900, $5,700. And then Super Bowl, we're hoping to bring in about $10,000 a night. So this one finally starting to pick up, but we haven't ran it for a whole year, and as soon as we do, I'll of course make a video on it. Cool? All right, so here are my final thoughts about 2022. Overall, less money than I made in 2021. That much is obvious, right? But still really good, right? I mean, do you disagree with that? Please leave me a comment down below if what I showed you in this video is the doom and gloom Airbnb bust apocalyptic scenario that you've been hearing about. I genuinely want to hear what people think. Also, I want to say that I haven't seen a lot of other creators in this space make a similar video showing their before and afters. Maybe they're making the same amount of money, or maybe they're making more money. Great. But I wanted to show you how much money I'm making in my Airbnb because I feel like I'm a relatively transparent person and I just like to put everything out there. I really have nothing to hide here, and I like doing this and I like showing you this because hopefully it helps you. Now, I will say that I may have to be a little less transparent soon just due to privacy reasons of things that have happened, such as people emailing me my address or DMing me my address or showing up at my front door. You know, I do deal with that kind of stuff more than you think. So if I ever stop talking about something or I just don't talk about something as much, just know that a lot of the times it's not because I don't want to, it's just because I have to protect myself because I have a wife and kids now. But for now, I did want to set the record straight and hopefully, I don't know, maybe just address the Reddit comments. It's like I really don't make it a habit to address haters because I feel like my numbers speak for themselves, but I can understand that if you look at my Airbnb calendars and they look empty, it looks like my business is performing terribly, right? So hopefully I've solved that assumption for everybody watching this today that like if you look at my calendars and I'm not booked, it doesn't mean that I'm not doing well, it just means that I get a lot of last minute bookings. And also I want to point out that 2020 and 2021 were record-setting years for hosts. Like we made more money than we've ever made before and probably will never have that good of a run again. But I just don't think a lot of hosts were ready or knew that that gravy train would ever end. And to be honest, I get it, because if you started in 2020 and 2021, that was a really good time to start. You would feel like a genius if you started at the top of the market and you were making a lot of money. It makes you feel unstoppable. What we looked at my portfolio today was a pretty wide range of dips ranging from, let's say, 5 to 30%. I even made more money on some properties, but if we averaged it out, I would say probably a dip of about 20% less revenue. And I don't want to be cavalier about that because I did make less money, but I still made money, and like good money, right? That's the headline I want you to focus on. That I still made a very healthy, beautiful, good profit on the majority of my properties. And you know who else took a 10 to 30% plus 50, 100% dip? The crypto market. And the stock market also took giant dips this year, and I don't hear anyone talking about the Wall Street bust. You know why? Because most seasoned investors understand that investing in stocks is a long game. And occasionally throughout the years, you're gonna see several corrections, but it doesn't really matter because if you invest consistently, at the end of 30 years, you're gonna be really wealthy for having done so. That's what I want you to take away from today, is that Airbnb is not a get rich quick scheme. Airbnb is a tool that you can use to build both cash flow, equity, and overall wealth over and over and over again. And that's what I love about this real estate niche. So yeah, if you were making $2,000 a month profit last year and this year you're making $1,500 a month and that's really shaking you up, then I don't think it's the right place to invest for you, because there's always gonna be more of that to come throughout the years. Now that things normalize, it doesn't mean that short-term rentals are over. It just means that we're getting back to normal, or maybe it might dip a little bit because we're going into a recession, right? Theoretically. But even if that's the case, if what I'm seeing right now is a small dip because of the recession, then I'm honestly relieved because I expect 2023 to be relatively consistent to what I've been seeing. Also, follow me on Instagram at RobBuilt. I divulge a lot of this stuff in the moment because Instagram is a lot more in the moment in my stories. I talk about this stuff all the time. So if you want my up-to-date numbers, go there. That's my spiel. Hopefully this helped. Did it? Did it scare you? Did it help you? Did it motivate you? Did it make you feel better? And let me know, genuinely. And if you want to get into the Airbnb business and I inspired you and I made you feel better, consider enrolling in Host Camp, a mentorship program where we teach you how to start, optimize, and scale your Airbnb business. We have over 100 calls a year where we hold your hand through the process. If you want to book a call with me and my team, you can do that at hostcamp.com. I want to help you. I want to help you on your journey, and I want to help you do this thing. And regardless, you always have free content here on the RobBuilt channel. Thanks for listening. This probably is my longest video ever. I'm sorry, but I love you guys collectively in a conceptual manner. You know what I mean? All right, bye.